Today, we discuss the 107 in our Dynasty rookie drafts. This is the first pick where we feel like 27 first takes the advantage. What other types of moves are we looking to make from this pick? A lot to discuss in this one. Stick around for all that and more. And welcome into the Dino Construction Podcast. Let's just hop right in with that first part here before we even introduce who we have drafted so far in the series and what's going on. 107 or a 27 first? I'm going to go JP first, then David.
Yeah, this is the point of the draft where I'm going to be actively pursuing a 2027 first. Admittedly, I do love that class, and right now, it gives me more flexibility in season than the 107 does. So at this spot, yeah, I would love to roll it over to 2027.
Yeah, unless I have some irons in the fire with 107 plus something else where I'm trying to package a couple things for a bigger asset. If I've already had those talks going, I'll hang on to my 107. If not, give me that 27 first all day.
Does it even matter if it's a team that seems to be playoff bound, or are we still doing it either way, JP?
I'd say if they're playoff bound, I still might make that move, I believe. But if they're like a super team, because we have leagues where there's one or two super teams. At that point, no, I'd rather hold on to the 107 probably.
Difficult situation to say I'm going to trade the 107 for a future first, but this is, I think, the year to do it, right? Usually that line is the 109, 110, sometimes the 108 in a down year. It's a pretty down year, but it's also coupled with an incredible, it's like a valley with a peak the following year. So it's the perfect storm that we discussed the 106 sometimes we're willing to in our last video. And in this one, we're talking about how we're practically always willing to do it with the 107. So what this series is, outside of discussing whether or not we'd trade the pick for a 27 first, we're actually walking through everything at the 107, how to handle it for a dynasty team. So we're going to talk about some strategy things. We'll add a couple more things. We'll talk trades, and we'll also talk who we will consider picking here. So far, we've already drafted at the 101 Love, 102 Tate, 103 Lemon, 104 Tyson, 105 Mendoza, and 106 Concepcion. Before we look at the other players that we might consider to draft here, let's also just look at, we're in the middle of a tier, and it's a murky tier. There's players that we like, but there's not players necessarily that we love, like we love, and the tier from the 102 to the 105. David, do you want to sit in the middle of this tier if you can't move off of it in the direction of the 27 first? Are you happy holding it, or are you looking to do other stuff to get off of it at this point?
I'm going to at least reach out to the top 4 picks in the draft. Obviously, it's going to take quite the offer to get to 101. We know that's significantly more valuable than the 102. But I think this is probably the last pick where I'm actually not uncomfortable holding it. We still got one guy on this board who I think some people have probably at least at 106. Maybe some people have a little bit higher. So I still think there's going to be value here. I think there's a few players that we like here. So even if the draft kills a couple players' value, I think you're still going to be looking pretty good at the 107. Yeah, I'm always looking to shop things, but I'm not desperate to get out of 107. Like 108, I have some 108, 109, 110. We'll talk about that a little more later. But I've sent out offers for every pick I have in that range so far. I haven't sent out as many for my 107s.
JP, curious your opinion here, because I think you discussed maybe feeling a little less comfortable with this spot earlier.
Yeah, just a little bit because Casey Concepcion has separated for me. But with this pick, I think I'm actively shopping it to see what I can get in the market for production. If I can tier up to 102, 103, I'd be very interested. So I think there's going to be a great player here. I might be willing to hold until the NFL draft. Let's say Jonah Coleman or Jadarian Price or something steams up the draft board. I've seen Jadarian Price mocked at pick 32 at the first of the Seahawks. And yeah, he might garner a lot of interest at that point or something a little bit lower on him. But I think I want to shop this pick. I really do. But I think shopping on the clock might be better, as I mentioned, for 106 as well.
So one trade question I have, just strategy-wise, to get out of this tier. Say we earned the 107. I personally feel like I'm very comfortable shopping or just sending the 107 and my 207 that I also earned if I have both those picks for the 105. Do you guys think that has a chance of getting done first? And is that something you guys are just sending out anywhere where you have the opportunity to?
I think it has a chance to get done. I don't think it always gets done. My hesitation there would be the premise that I'm fringe competing. I'm trying to make that push to complete my roster. If I get stuck with Mendoza, am I okay with that? If the answer is yes, then I'm happy to send that out. If the answer is no, I'm a little more hesitant.
Definitely good perspective there. JP, feel free to answer the same question. Also, tell me if it's any different if you have to send a 27-second to get it done.
It's a little bit different, but I will say, even if I've got quarterback room that has two good starters and like a Shador Sanders at QB3, I think the value of Mendoza, even then, or an elite wide receiver that is in a bad spot, I think the value is still there just because the ceiling, it gives a much better ceiling long term and even in the market as well. So I think that's probably a pretty good move.
All right, so we'll take a look at some real trades in a minute. But first, let's just introduce the audience to who we are considering here. We have Sadiq, Kenyon Sadiq, Denzel Boston, and Omar Cooper. David and JP, give me the pitches for the two guys you think we should take here.
Yeah, sure. I will start with my guy here. I'm going to make a pitch for Omar Cooper. JP, I thought you laid a pretty good case in the 106 video. If you guys didn't catch that, go back and watch that for sure. First thing I want to start with, basically, he's like in that Luther Burden archetype where he needs a little polish on the route running and things, but boy, when he has the ball in his hands, can he do special things? And you can see the path for him to develop the finer points of being a receiver to the point where he probably could be your alpha. Matt Harmon said, I'm paraphrasing here, I don't have the exact quote, but it was something like Jamar Chase and Malik Neighbors are the two best I've ever seen after the catch. Omar Cooper has a strong case to be in that grouping. At 0.39 missed tackles forced per attempt. He broke multiple tackles on over a third of his in-space attempts per reception perception. I just love what he can do with the ball in his hands. And I think that raises his floor to the point where he's not going to miss. You might not get the exact player you're hoping out of him. You might not hit his full upside, but you're at least going to be able to find ways to get him the ball and let him do things. So I think he's a great receiver prospect here. I do think, like JP mentioned in the 106, he has the inside track at being the fourth receiver off the board in the NFL draft, maybe even third. And if that happens, then I think 107 for him would be a pretty darn good value.
I know you're saying like phenomenal with balls in hands based off what Harmon's saying, but when you said being good with like balls in hands, if you can just find ways to get him into space, meaning he can't miss, just makes me think LaVisca. JP, who's your guy here?
Ouch.
I don't think he's LaVisca Chenault. Sorry, just to clarify. I just saying can't miss. You can always miss.
Yeah, anybody can miss, definitely. Even the player here that I'm going to talk about is Kenyon Sadiq, which in a 1.75 tight end premium format, he is a great pick here, in my opinion. Justin, I thought you did a great job outlining his profile. It's just the fact that his production was fine. His college dominator was 70th percentile. Like, that's pretty good. And then you got an elite athlete who's probably going to get first round draft capital, maybe even top 15 to go along with it. The ceiling is just super, super high. The last couple of years, I've been burned by not taking Brock Bowers in my rookie draft, by not taking Tyler Warren. And I only got one share of Colston Loveland as well, and I regret that. So in the tight end premium formats, if these rookies hit, boy, they go up in value quickly, and they were hard to acquire. And who knows, we might have that again here with Kenyon Sadiq. Not certain, but even if he has a slow first year, we've seen that tight ends in the first round can hold some value. People are like, oh, just wait, tight ends take a little bit to develop. There's still that narrative with the rookie tight end that year two is going to be better because everybody says it's slow to develop, which has changed recently. We've seen a lot of rookies produce out the gate, but I think given the upside that he has, even if he doesn't hit year one, I think he's going to hold pretty good market value, and I think his just ceiling is pretty close to Brock Bowers level. Not quite, but I think at least 2.5 first value could be very reasonable if he truly hits it in year one.
Just we are talking from a 1.75 tight end premium standpoint for the audience. Before we move on to talk trades, I do just have one question for both of you guys. I'll ask David first. If we are not talking tight end premium, but he's still going as round one in the NFL draft, do you think he still belongs in this tier in non-tight end premium, or is he definitely dropping out of it if he gets round one draft capital?
He definitely moves to the bottom of the tier if he stays in it for me. The real question that I'd have to ask myself is, do I think he has like positional advantage upside with that athleticism? I think he has that potential. If he gets the right landing spot, especially because in no tight end premium, if I can get the guy who's still scoring 5 more points than your tight end, that's still 5 more points than your tight end. It's not quite as good of a floor, obviously, but it can still win you leagues if you have the right tight end. It's just your margin for error is a little smaller. So I'm definitely moving him to the bottom of the tier, but I still think he'll be a later 109-ish, 110, in probably that range for those kind of drafts.
All right. And JP, do you kind of roughly agree, or do you think he'd actually drop out at this point?
He might drop out. It's close for me. I think he probably falls behind. Good chance falling behind RB2. And I think I'd take the top 6 wide receivers most likely ahead of him just pre-draft. So it's hard to say right now, but I'd say 109, 110 is where I'd pencil him in at right now in non-tight end premium.
And then I guess just the last question, since I said I was going to ask one and I'm a liar. Does RB2 belong in this tier? We just simply, it's way too murky and we don't know if it's going to be Price, Coleman, Washington, Johnson, etc. But once we actually know post draft, do you think it's in this tier?
Probably.
That's exactly what I was going to start it with, is probably, because I don't love Jit's profile. I think the bust risk is very real. The pass catching upside is limited. So if he's RB2, I think no. But if it's Coleman, maybe even Emmett Johnson, who we love, then I think probably.
All right. So let's say so before we actually make a pick here from these players, we're going to man the phones because we're not doing our due diligence if we're not looking for trade offers. So let's look at the 107 and Devonta Smith or Drake London. JP, you're the Falcons fan, so I always am going to defer to you first on all things Falcons.
Yeah, I think Drake London is pretty close to that tier 2 of wide receivers of Justin Jefferson, Malik Neighbors, and whatnot. We've even debated Justin Jefferson and Drake London. So I think I value him more than 2 firsts, and that's what I've been viewing the package side as. So I'm going to say Drake London, and also I like to consolidate, and I think he's awesome.
Yeah, smash that. This one for sure. I'm taking the London side.
I would be inclined to agree. The only reason I'd look to move off of London for a package like this is if I'm going towards a rebuild, in which case getting an older wide receiver and a first that's not elite is not the way that I'm looking to do that. 107 or a 28 first plus the 205.
I like the 2020 class, and if I'm willing to do 107 straight up for 27 first, I think 205 pushes me enough to go to roll it over into 2028, and that just gives me flexibility for a really long time. So I think I'm going to go right there, even though I do not love a mid-second in this class.
Yeah, that 28 first is going to be spending as a first end season. So it's not quite as inflated in value as a 27 first is, but that 28 class is going to be good. I think there's going to be a moment when we can look up and look over past the 27 class. And we'll see how good the 28 class is actually going to be. And at that moment, all those 28 firsts are going to jump up in value. So I'll take the 28 first. I still get to take a flyer on a guy in this draft, and I get to pocket the most valuable asset probably.
And although we've talked about how it's difficult to get running backs potentially with picks in this draft, we've seen a few on dynastydaddy.com, so from real leagues where this has happened. The 107 or Saquon Barkley.
I think I'm going to go Saquon. I still think he's got that hammer potential, and this is assuming that with the 105, I'm looking for a running back, right? That's clearly what I'm doing if I'm considering Saquon. So I think I'll go with Saquon because we've mentioned before, it's not going to get you those tier 2 or tier 1 running backs. And Saquon was just there before, and still think he could have an elite season in him.
Yeah, I do think Saquon's due for a bounce back. I don't know how many years he has left, but even one high-end season like that is probably worth the 107. It's just, I don't think I can do it today unless, I don't even know I don't know. That's hard. He's an old running back. I don't like paying first for old running backs like this, especially coming off a bad season. I need to shop that around before I'm even thinking about this, but I'm probably waiting till I'm on the clock to make a deal like this.
I think I'm just going to do it if I'm contending. I think it's a fair price for him. I think he has elite upside, and I think we're struggling to get other running backs. I would probably shop first for other things, but then I think I'd probably just take it, to be honest with you. Maybe the better process is see if I can roll into a 27 first and see what I can do with that 27 first later on. That actually is probably the correct move. So maybe I won't do it, but it's fair value. I think if you've looked at other options like I just described, I think I'm willing to pay it. Last, we have the 107, or one of David's favorite players over the last few seasons, Kyron Williams, and one of my favorite buys last offseason that backfired for me, DK Metcalf.
Yeah, when you pick up Kyron Williams for basically free in all of your, I think that offseason I was in 4 Dynasty leagues. It was pretty nice. But I see this as a much more enticing package than Saquon. I think Kyron and Saquon are similar. I do think Saquon has a higher ceiling. He could definitely outscore Kyron this year. And I think even though Kyron got paid, the fumbles give you some concern for his job security. They do like to draft running backs. Maybe if they're going to draft another one on the 4th or 5th round this year, wouldn't surprise me. But you're getting the running back production and you're getting another guy you can flex. I know DK didn't have a great season last year. I don't expect him to be a stud ever again, but he's someone you can flex. So you're getting an extra piece in case Kyron does lose his job and you're not completely left with nothing. So I think I'm taking the package here.
Yeah, if I was willing to trade the 107 for Saquon, then I'd be willing to do it for this because I do think Kyron and Saquon are probably in the same running back tier. So yeah, just give me a little sweetener, and yeah, I'm pretty happy.
All right, I would definitely take the package side there. I think DK has been hammered a little too hard. I think he's probably worth a early second in this draft class pretty easily. Definitely happy paying a 27 second for him if I don't think it's going to be early and I just need a flex play. I think add a 27 second roughly to the 107, add a 27 second to Kyron Williams for the 107. I'm pretty happy to take that type of valuation. I think it's just a value gain. So now we've manned the phones. Let's say these trade offers don't come through. We do have to make a pick. You guys talked about both players that have compelling cases, but in a decent tight end premium, I'm going to end up breaking the tie and going Sadiq over Cooper. Landing spot and other stuff that happens in the NFL draft could definitely change our perspective here, but that will be the direction we're going to be taking this pick. Let us know in the comments below if you disagree with that. Also, feel free to shout out any trade questions you have involving the 107. And thank you for joining us for another episode of the Dino Construction Podcast. We hope you found this as helpful for you as it was for us. Please remember to like and subscribe wherever you listen or view. And from all of us here at the Dino Construction Podcast, until next time.